William King Hale is an extraordinary character.
Osage are the most beautiful people on God's earth.
He was respectful on the one hand and murderous thug on the other hand.
You're gonna make trouble, make it big.
William K. Hale wanted to take control of Osage wealth and territory at all costs.
That estate money flows the right direction, it'll come to us.
Was exploiting and manipulating them.
And if necessary, do away with them, almost as if it was for their own good.
You gonna kill this Indian?
How'd you know?
In real life, William Hale was the banality of evil.
So many troubles will be brought upon you.
Robert De Niro is one of the people on this planet that can change the temperature in a room. He is so powerful.
They're gonna go. Their time is over. It will happen.
Welcome back to the Osage. You're always welcome, as you know, and it's so good to see you again.
You too, you too.
You know, this is such a complex story. You have the history of the Osage. You have us striking oil. That led to the Reign of Terror, they called it. We are real sensitive to the history, but you got to tell the story. If it didn't upset people, there's something wrong
Something
with it.
wrong with it.
When this money started coming, we should have known it came with something else.
When I asked you, what is your approach? You said, I want to tell a story about betrayal of trust between the Osage people and the outside world.
By focusing on Ernest and Molly, it's like an analogy of the overall situation.
I don't even know if you love me anymore.
I am right here.
I was concerned about someone else telling our story. But when you came on board, you said, we're going to film here. You were going to use our language department. You were going to work with our people who do costumes.
There's no way I would have made it without the full support of the Osage community. Everybody was here. Where else can you shoot? Look at this place. It's perfect.
We have a different culture, and you portrayed that so well, so accurately.
I always think that America needs your culture. More than just learning. We could open our minds and our hearts to a whole new way.
They're like buzzards circling our people. We're still warriors.
We're honored to tell this powerful historical story in the most authentic way.
So you sure did that. I don't know how you do it, but you sure did it.
Oklahoma was just this powder keg of different cultures and this population of white supremacy that really preyed upon, you know, communities of color that had independent wealth. And David Grann really exposed this story in a way that, you know, it was incredible because, as I said before, it was a lost part of our past. And certainly the birth of the FBI was also fascinating. The Osage culture, that whole community, and the interrelationship between Molly and her white husband, Ernest. All of it fascinated me. And so I wanted to be a part of this story and bring as much authenticity and truth to telling it as I possibly could. And thank God Martin Scorsese felt the same way. And I think it's probably been a 5-6 year process to get the story right. Ernest Burkhart is the nephew of William K. Hale, played by Robert De Niro. In our film, he comes back from World War I, a veteran. Having been brought up by William Hale and been under his influence his whole life, he was not the most intelligent person in the world and easily influenced. And William K. Hale was sort of the banality of evil, somebody that wanted to take control of Osage wealth and territory at all costs and considered himself a part of the Osage community. And in our film and, arguably in real life, my character Ernest develops a relationship with Molly Burkhart, and they have children, become married, and slowly but surely, under William Cahale's influence, a series of murders start to happen, and her family bloodline slowly disappears. Tom White, is a Texas lawman hired by J. Edgar Hoover, and they start to do, a thorough investigation of what occurred, because so many people had been bought off in the communities, so many people were corrupt, the local police force, the doctors. The entire town essentially was in on the game of taking advantage of the Osage community as much as possible. So the law, in that old Western sort of term, the lawmen start to come in and clean this mess up.
William Hale, being Ernest Burkhart's uncle, is kind of a de facto father figure to a man who's returning from war, who doesn't have a whole lot of skills to offer, doesn't have prospects at much work, plants the idea of, well, being married to an Osage person. There's good money in that. After the Osage oil boom, you see this incredible chapter of history, not unlike you saw in Tulsa with Black Wall Street, of a community that was not white being incredibly wealthy. And I love how the film depicts that when you have these moments of seeing Osage oil wealth. Of course, that brings in a lot of people who want to capitalize on that. It's an incredible thing to have a film of this magnitude come into your community to open these very fresh wounds that haven't really fully closed.
The real heart of the film is between Ernest and Molly. That's the real core of the story. It's a very strange, it's a love story. Some of this I picked up from having been at Grey Horse and at Pawhuska with the Osage. They talked about this, of the two of them being in love. I said, that's the real heart of it. It's a love story nonetheless. And despite what happens in it, which involved then taking the script as it stood and sort of turning it sort of inside out. Instead of coming at the story from the outside in, we were inside it already, and the outside comes in later on in the picture. And so this was a major change that we worked on. Marianne and I worked together for years now, and she is more than a researcher, really. She brings so much to the process that she becomes a real creative collaborator. But research here for me is everything, in most cases, especially in this film. And the depth and the volume of the research actually led to a very strong mutual respect between our team and the entire Osage community. And it was a relationship that grew closer and closer as we went along. Killers of the Flower Moon takes place right in the middle of the Reign of Terror, which was a series of murders by every possible means, by the way, from shootings to gradual poisonings to bombings of Osage men and women to bilk them out of their wealth that they'd accumulated after the discovery of oil on their land in the 1890s. 60 people or so reported as murdered throughout the 1920s, but everyone feels that the real number was much higher than that. Well, I would want audiences to watch the picture as best they can, hopefully in a theater, and just experience it, go with it, experience it for themselves. And obviously, I see parallels with events occurring in the world today, but I want audiences to draw their own parallels. I want them to see the picture, experience it, interpret it. We're making a film about an historical event that is central to the Osage history. So, of course, it's important we spoke that language.
What was that?
This is 1920s, where people were still speaking the Osage language daily.
We wanted to be as authentic as possible, and using the duality of both English and Osage was a symbol of the enmeshment of the two cultures.
We need the shots.
Language and culture are inseparable. You understand the way people operate through their language.
Speaking Osage changed the way that I even moved as Molly. It took months to get comfortable with a different pace of speaking.
Working with Robert De Niro, he is very serious about it. So we met every day, getting the gestures right and the voice right.
They got very comfortable with the words, the sounds, the rhythms. And in some cases, I didn't even put subtitles on the scene because you know what's going on. We're deeply committed to staying true to the reality of the world in which this story unfolds.
I feel immense responsibility playing Molly Burkhart. Oil wealth brought a lot of undesired attention to Osage country.
This blanket is a target on our backs.
Molly's family faced blatant extortion and murder to bilk them out of their wealth.
When the murders start happening, Molly challenges the justice system.
You want to go to Washington, D.C.?
This may be the last thing I do.
Molly is really the heroine in a lot of ways.
Do you have any idea who might want to harm you?
Molly embodies the pain of the Osage people.
Please send help. There's murder in Osage, and the police do nothing.
It's a powerful film, and I'm honored to stand with the Osage Nation and the descendants of those who perished.
I ought to kill these men who killed my family.
The character of Ernest Burkhart I found absolutely fascinating.
Ernest comes to Oklahoma and ultimately falls in love with Molly Kyle.
I don't know what she said, but it must have been Indian for handsome devil.
William K. Hale used that as an opportunity to prey upon her wealth.
Osage.
They're gonna go. Their time is over.
Ernest is under a very strong influence of his uncle. He finds himself getting deeper into murderous lands.
I'm sorry for all troubles.
Working with Leo and watching this master create this character, it's unbelievable.
Ernest's a real-life representation of the incredible greed of that time.
I just love money. I love it as much as I love my wife.